to start the recording here for everybody. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen like we normally do. Okay, here's our opening page. You all see the three guys. I'm going to get rid of them if I could find something that fit better in there. I'm getting real tired of those guys. Okay, they look like they belong in a meat locker. Okay. Okay. Are you seeing my cursor going around the center?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to know it's working, and we look up here to see which class we're in. I really should get a different image for the other class so nobody gets confused. But for right now, just be sure to read it, see which one you got. I want to go to the 110 class, okay, on my screen. And here's what I meant by the dashboard. It's right here. Hit the dashboard, go to the 110 class. Okay, so even though I'm actually in Bio 11, now I'm looking at 110. For all of us, I can go to the quizzes. And here's the third quiz. And I can look at the statistics. Okay. The average score on the quiz was 83%. Now that's not good enough, is it? It's not a bad score for somebody that's 2 weeks away from the lecture test. It's exactly 2 weeks until the lecture test, but you don't want an 83. I don't want you to have an 83. I'd rather have a 93 or even higher, and so would you. Okay. And of course, these are select questions that you get to work over and over again. And here's the student analysis, and it puts out a Excel chart. It shows you by name, how many times you did it, the score you got. I only use that if I think is somebody having a problem. Okay, I can take a look at that. If I see somebody that really scored poorly but never tried it again, I might write them and suggest that they should try it again. That's about all. Okay, so the average amount of time that was spent on this test was 7 minutes. It doesn't take that long. The highest score, 100%. That could have been a first timer, but it could have been somebody who's taken it before. We don't. I can find that out. I don't care. I don't want to know that. Okay. So we now can look at the individual questions. Everybody got that one right. So I'm not going to worry about the ones you all got right. Okay. This one was missed by a quarter of the class. In meiosis, which of the two divisions is the one in which the number of chromosomes is reduced to 1 N per cell? The reduction phase of meiosis occurs in meiosis 1. Okay. Recombination also occurs in meiosis 1. Okay. You got your score back, and you can go to this quiz yourself and look at your answers and see why you missed it, or look up why you missed it. And if you can't find it, you can email me and ask why you missed it, or you can bring it to our questions and answer times and ask why you missed it. This one must have been missed by like one person, so this is pretty good. This one's not. This is another 75%er. Okay. Meiosis results in the formation of 4 genetically identical ova in the female. That's wrong on 2 counts. First off, they're not genetically identical ova. They're gametes, just as in the male. And the gametes do not have the same genetic composition. They have all undergone recombination. You won't find any two alike. So they're not genetically identical. They're not even physically identical because in oogenesis, you have the formation of one ovum and three polar bodies. Okay, the next one, okay. Recombination results from the exchange of genetic material. Yes. Between what? Well, if I had to put chromosomes here, I'd have to give credit for it, but I didn't put chromosomes. It's the chromatids. It's the arms. Okay. Everybody got that one and that one right. And for this one, yeah, we only had one missed on this one. Chromatids are connected to the same chromosome by the centromere. Okay. It's a little far-fetched, but I can imagine somebody thinking the centriole, okay, has all those fibers coming out and attaches to all the chromosomes, which it temporarily does. So now this one clues me in. I need to reword my question a little bit. Okay, so that one person would not have missed that. This one's fine. This one's not. What's the matter with this one? In considering the attachment of muscles, oh, you haven't had this yet. Okay, you're going to get it today. You're going to get it in a few minutes. In considering the attachment of muscles, the end that moves during contraction, that's the insertion. Insertion. But don't worry if you missed this one. You hadn't had it yet. Okay, and you will in just a moment. This is another one on muscle. Smooth muscle is both striated and under voluntary control. That's false, but you haven't had it yet. So this is one of those tests that you can take again and do it even more quickly. All cells are capable of mitosis. Okay, this one we've got to fix right away. 33% of the class, third, missed it, and that shouldn't have been. All cells are capable of mitosis. All cells are capable of division. Most of you know that brain cells are not capable of dividing, at least not under normal circumstances. In the laboratory, you can get certain brain cells to divide in a petri dish, but that's abnormal. The other thing is the red blood cells have a 120-day life cycle or life expectancy. Red blood cells do not have a nucleus. There's no way they can divide. Okay, so this should have been false all the way across. Okay. This is fine. The spindle apparatus is formed by, in this case, centrioles, and it extends out to the centromeres, but the centromeres do not form it. It's formed by the centrioles. I think I looked at this one the other day and the class didn't do so well, the people who took it early, and now they've caught on. Which of the following is not a tissue? And the answer is skin. Fat is a tissue, blood is a tissue. I throw this kind of question in about the skin 2 or 3 places in the semester. And unfortunately, even at the end of the semester, somebody still wants to call the skin tissue. It is not. It's composed of tissue, but it is an organ. 100%, we don't worry about that. This is a muscle question you haven't had yet. You will get it today. Okay. When the part of the body is moved away from the midline, it's abducted, taken away. Okay. And this one down here, which of the following is the largest? It's a trochanter. Now, this is one that backs up to the bones, and it might be similar to a question I would ask. Tubercle, like on a rib, is small. Tuberosity on the radius or the tibial tuberosity is larger. The trochanter on the proximal end of the femur is the largest. And the last question down here, connective tissue that surrounds the fasciculus. You haven't had this yet. Okay, I'm sorry for jumping the gun here on a few questions, but as long as you know you haven't had it, you know you haven't missed it yet either. And the answer is paramecium. Okay. Use the dashboard, get back to our class and modules. Okay, Tuesday, of course, we had the practicum. There's an assignment for this week. It's chapter 10. And if this were Tuesday, I would tell you we'll do it on Thursday because I want to keep moving here, but we have to do it. Chapter 10, if you have your book with you, so that those who want to get it done can go ahead. Okay, in my book, it starts roughly at page 242, muscle tissue or skeletal muscle tissue. If you don't have the book with you for some reason, just a notepad or a piece of paper, or open up a Word document so that you can write down what to do and not to do. Okay, in outlining chapter 10, overview, yes. Properties, yes. Functions, yes. Types of muscle tissue, yes. Table 10.1, yes, but save it for the end. If you do it right now, you're going to get confused, possibly. Save it for the end of the chapter. Turn the page. Skeletal muscle, yes. Gross anatomy, yes. Nerves and blood vessels, no. Muscle attachments, yes. Okay, if you're going to begin outlining the chapter, then I would stop temporarily or pause after you get to the skeletal muscle fiber. I am going to ask you to outline this, but I think right now, if you're doing it this weekend, you'll be outlining something that's completely foreign to you. And I'm going to lecture on this on Tuesday. So if you can bring your outline up to the skeletal muscle fiber, or go ahead if you feel comfortable. Okay. You may continue on to the next page or two, mechanism of contraction. For mechanism of contraction, no, we're going to stop there. So I'm just telling you that the last page, the skeletal muscle fiber, you can put it off, wait till Tuesday, and then do it. Take no time at all. Or you can do it yourself and get it outlined, even if you don't understand it. And by Tuesday, we'll have gone over it. Okay. Mechanism of contraction, I want to go over that with you myself. I don't want the book doing it. Okay. So that's it. Here's our first lecture then on muscles for 916 lecture. Okay, so obviously this is something that if you're printing things out for the lecture exam, you would want to go for this, or you can leave it here and come back for it. Okay, muscle tissue. The functions that muscles perform, some of them seem so obvious, but there's always a couple that get left out. Motion, okay. Locomotion, there's a difference between motion and locomotion. Wherever you're seated right now, it looks like everybody's seated to me, okay? And you're moving around, turning your head, throwing your books, and whatever else. That's motion. Locomotion is getting from here to there when you're actually moving your entire body. The maintenance of posture or position, it takes a set of muscles just to sit up and stay upright. If you wanted to stand at attention, which is an extreme posture, that takes tons of muscles to do in your legs, your thighs, your abdomen, everywhere. So maintenance of posture. The production of heat. The production of heat. Well, every time they put that in the book, they're talking about shivering. When's the last time you shivered? Anybody remember shivering? Some people don't ever remember it. Okay. Yeah, you'll shiver once in a while. Ever shiver so much that your jaw just clack, 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 and
Definitely. And my whole body tenses up.
of course, if you're from the East, you shiver much more frequently, or have anyway. The circulation of blood is helped out by the muscle tissue. Well, of course, the heart, the largest cardiac muscle that we have, is going to help circulate the blood. But the vessels themselves, the blood vessels, called the muscular arteries, which we'll get to again later. The muscular arteries also contract and help push the blood that is within them further along. Okay, we have three different types of muscles: skeletal muscle, cardiac, and one type of muscle called smooth, and it can also be called visceral, meaning of the organs. I use the terms interchangeably on tests. I will say smooth muscle one time and visceral muscle another time. And that's just to check to be sure that you know that they're the same thing. Skeletal muscle. Okay. Can you name a skeletal muscle? Just one. There's over 650.
Bicep.
Bicep.
Biceps. Okay. Let's use the biceps. Everybody knows the biceps. Whoops, wrong side. Biceps brachii. And the biceps brachii. Is that under voluntary control? can you decide to move it, to flex it, to use
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Okay. That's what voluntary means here, that you have control over it. Okay. Is it striated? Well, that would mean in histology. We'd have to look. I'm going to tell you right now, it is striated. Here it is. Here's the muscle itself. And you can see the little stripes in it. Looks like the underside of a bunch of parallel snakes. Okay. Okay. It's striated. Okay. Now, are there exceptions? Yes, there's exceptions, but when it comes to answering the questions on the test, we don't go for the exceptions. Okay, but I will throw one out here. For skeletal muscle, when it says voluntary, is it ever involuntary? Yeah. Has your eye ever started twitching? Has a spot on your arm ever started thumping and pumping? Okay. Have you ever started shaking uncontrollably? Not necessarily due to cold either. Sure, in all those rare instances, the skeletal muscle is involuntarily moving on you for some reason or other. Okay? But we'll always consider that the skeletal muscle is voluntary and it always is striated. Cardiac muscle. Is the heart muscle voluntary? Well, it says here right in front of you, no. But it is also striated. Here it is down here. And the striations are not these dark areas here. These are called intercalated discs. The striations, you have to look a little bit harder. Here they are. Look at the striations here. All the way through. Okay, so the cardiac muscle is not voluntary, but it is striated. Well, when you say the cardiac muscle is not voluntary, can you think of an exception to that?
When they try and revive you.
I'm trying to think if that works. Uh, don't know if I can answer that. I've never been in that situation. Okay, look, you are uptight, anxious, got a test coming and stuff. You sit down and you do some meditation, and your heart slows down. If I want my heart to speed up, I go out and run around the block. So I have the ability to make it go faster. You go to the gym, you can make it go faster. Okay. So under normal circumstances, when you're not thinking about it, you don't have cardiac control. The answer on any test is no. Okay, not the exceptions. You can really bring yourself down to a calm level using several different techniques. The one I was taught, I was taught by a psychiatrist, I was taught by a medical doctor, and I was taught by a psychologist, and I was taught by a physical therapist. They all have little variations on their technique of calming down. Take a deep breath, count to four or something like that. But that really, really does work. The first way I was taught, and when I was taught so long ago, we used to call it transcendental meditation. Have you ever heard of that term? It's something that died quickly. It's a cult thing. TM, transcendental meditation. The Beatles brought it to the U.S. with their guru, uh, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I hate the Beatles. I hate almost every one of their songs. A couple I like, but I was never a fan of theirs. And if you weren't a fan of theirs, they brought along a guru, then he was, off the wall. But he taught transcendental meditation, and it turned out the same thing the psychiatrist taught me as well. And it really, really will work. You have to be in the frame of mind, though, that you're willing to give up a half an hour, usually in the morning. If I'm going to give up a half an hour in the morning, that means I'm going to lose a half hour of sleep. I don't know about that. But you get up and you do it, there's breathing and flexing exercises, and boy, it lasts all day long. Okay, our third type of muscle is smooth muscle or visceral muscle, meaning or pertaining to the organs. Well, it's not under your control. You get stomach cramps or a gurgling stomach, embarrassing as it might be. You can't stop it, okay? All you can do is walk away, walk out of the room. Okay, your blood pressure has to do with the resiliency of the walls of your vessels, and you don't have control over that unless you want to do TM, which I just told you about. Okay, and some of you might want to honestly look into TM or meditation, because you don't use chemicals, you don't have to pay for it, and it works. Okay, smooth muscles. Yeah.
You said blood pressure has to do with the resiliency of what?
Of the wall of the vessels.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Voluntary, smooth muscle is not voluntary. Is it striated? It's not that either. Okay. So we go down and take a quick look at it. I'm going to go through all three again. Here's a smooth muscle. The nuclei are elongated here. Okay. Here's the matrix of the cells. Okay. All joined together, but they can only contract in one direction, and that's this way. To me, this looks like looking down into a stream, and there's a whole bunch of fish going by. Okay, and I wish I had a line, maybe, although I don't like to fish. I got myself all geared up with the trout rod. I went to Convict Lake, rented a fancy place. I had a creel, if you know what that is, basket, all ready to do the fishing. And I caught a lot of fish, but damn it, I couldn't kill them. I looked at the eyes, they were pleading at me. I threw them back. Okay, here's skeletal muscle once again.
Charlie,
Yes.
what does it mean always on the edge? The
What
last,
is it?
the last line.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see it. Let me get there, okay?
Sorry.
Okay. Here's the skeletal muscle. Remember the first thing, it's definitely striated. You see it in there when you get close enough. Okay. It's not enucleate. These are nuclei. Okay. And the nuclei are either on the edge of our view, or it looks like here they're inside. They're not inside. They're on top or underneath on the other side. The cell, the muscle fiber, can be seen through with a light microscope. So this is a nucleus. but it's on the other side, underneath, if we're looking down from the top. Okay. The nuclei are always on the circumference, a better word than edge. That makes sense?
Yes.
That sounded like a yes that is, I'll just say yes and he'll go away. So the nuclei are on the edge, no one will disagree here, but they're on the top too. Top, bottom, edge, edge, top or bottom, can't tell there. They're not inside the cell. The cardiac muscle have darker markings called intercalated or intercalated, say it either way, disc. Okay. Also, the cardiac muscle is branched. Watch my cursor go here. Oh, which way do I go? It's like on a freeway. I take the off ramp, or I continue on the freeway, or I'm coming this way. Oh, I can switch over, or I can go straight ahead. It's not torn. They're branched. There's branching here. There's branching here. There's a big branch here or here. Going back to the skeletal muscle, it's never branched. And there are no striations at all in the smooth muscle. One nucleus roughly in the center of the cell, although you'd be hard put to outline a single cell here in this particular picture. Parts of a skeletal muscle, very simple actually. You have one end that serves as the origin. Doesn't have to be at the top, that's just the way this picture is. The origin, another the insertion. A skeletal muscle can only do one thing, contract. That's all it can do. This end, the origin, stays relatively stationary. Okay, you mentioned the biceps a moment ago. Biceps means bi, two, ceps, head. There are two heads to the biceps. They each attach to the scapula in different spots, and then they come down and attach to the radius down at the other end. Okay. When you flex your arm, and bring up your forearm, your shoulder stays still. It's the origin. The origin, this is the attachment to the stationary end of the muscle. The part that moves will be down around the elbow, via the radius, and will be curved up or flexed when you flex your muscles, when you flex your biceps. And that's called the insertion. You have an origin that stays relatively stationary during contraction, and the insertion moves towards the origin during contraction. The middle of the muscle is called the belly. They didn't get very fancy with that term. Okay, some definitions defined for you then. Again, the origin of a muscle is the end of the muscle that is relatively stationary during contraction. The biceps has two heads of origin. Two heads of origin. One connects to the coracoid process of the scapula. The other attaches to the glenoid tubercle of the scapula. Now, I don't expect you to remember that right now. Okay, you'll get it in just a bit in lab today. The insertion is the end of the muscle that moves towards the origin during contraction. Rarely, a muscle origin can act as the insertion, and the insertion can act as the origin. Okay, well, how does that happen? You have a muscle right down your midsection of your belly called the rectus abdominis. The rectus abdominis muscle attaches to the xiphoid process, okay, which is usually considered its origin, and to the pubic crest or the pubic arch, which is usually considered its insertion. Runs right down the middle of your belly. It's commonly called the six-pack muscle. Okay. Now then, if you were lying on the ground preparing to do exercises or whatever, and you lift up, you're in a flat position, you lift up your thighs, you lift up your knees towards your stomach. You may not get very far, but try it mentally. Okay. The origin is the xiphoid process for the rectus abdominis. The insertion is going to be instead the pubic arch. It helps raise up the lower part of the body. There are other muscles involved in this for sure. Now, lie back down again mentally. And this time you're going to do a sit-up. You don't have anybody sitting on your legs to help you out. You don't have a bar down there either. You just got to pull yourself up. Well, what raises up is the chest area of your body. And so what is staying still, the origin, is the pubic arch. And this time it's pulling towards it, the xiphoid process. So some muscles that can work both ways. Okay. When there is a muscle that is like that, I'll point it out to you. The majority of muscles don't work both ways. They are for one function or another. And there is an opposing muscle to return the body to the regular position. For instance, again, if we flex the biceps brachii, it'll bring the forearms up. We flex our biceps. Okay, stop flexing your biceps. What's going to bring your forearms and such down? How do you get it back? Well, you could just, in this case, lean over and gravity will do it. But your triceps underneath your upper arm will contract at your will. They're voluntary. And you can bring your arm back down. So usually we have opposing sets of muscles. Flexion. That's the action of a muscle or a set when the angle at the joint is decreased. Okay. Put the fingers of one hand right in the crotch of the elbow on the anterior side of the elbow, the indented side. Now, flex your forearm. You can feel it crushing your fingers. Okay. That's what flexion is. The angle is being decreased, the angle of the joint. When the angle of the joint is being increased, the term is extension. Abduction is when you take a part away from the midline of the body. So if you're standing upright, you can just imagine this, okay? And now you want to raise your hands laterally.
Oh, shoot. Hey, sweetie.
We always know who it is. Okay. Abduction is to move your arms laterally, or legs for that matter, laterally. Adduction is to bring them in tight together, to close off. So to bring the arms closer to the side, or as close as possible. Pronation is to turn your palms down, or to lie flat down. That should not say fact, it should say flat. Supination, palms up, or to lie on your back. Supine. Prone is face down. Supine is face up. Okay, here's what a muscle grouping looks like when it's cut. Now, down at the bottom, before we get to the text, this is bone. Okay, and attaching bone and muscle will be tendon. This is either the tendon of origin or the tendon of insertion. If this area stays put and everything is drawn towards it when the muscle contracts, then this is the tendon of origin. And the tendon of insertion would not be seen in this picture. Well, we don't know which way this diagram would like us to think it contracts, so we won't worry about that at this point. We'll just worry that here we have a muscle, and it's got a sheath around it. And that's one thing we don't get to do in the online, although I can show you a video of it, is remove the sheath. Cleans it up. That sheath is the epimysium. It surrounds the entire muscle. The epimysium. When you cut into the muscle, you find there are columns of cells grouped together. They're not flat. They are columns. They go all the way down. They go all the way to the other end of the muscle. These groupings are called fasciculi, or the singular is a fasciculus. Here's a single fasciculus drawn out as if it could be telescoped, which of course it can't. But for illustration, here's a fasciculus. The fasciculus has its own coating of connective tissue, whereas the epimysium covers the entire muscle. Each and every fasciculus, of which we can see 7 here, maybe 1 in the back, is coated by paramysium. That was the answer to one question that was missed a couple times. Actually, the paramysium is continuous with the epimysium. The diagram doesn't do justice to showing that. But when it's on the outside of the muscle, it's epimysium, simple as can be. And when you can find it surrounding one of these fasciculi, then it's epimysium. Inside of the fasciculus, what look like to be cells are cells. They're muscle fibers or muscle cell. A muscle fiber is a muscle cell. And here, again, magically, they're drawing one of them out. It looks sort of maggot or worm-like here. This muscle cell extends all the way from the origin to the insertion. Okay. So we have a cut muscle right through its belly. The muscle cell is surrounded by endomysium, and that's shown here as the connective tissue between each of the muscle fibers of this particular fasciculus. So it runs epimysium from the outside, paramysium around the fasciculus, and endomysium surrounds the muscle fibers. This diagram looks different, but it's almost exactly the same content as the last one, and it should not fool you at all. The tendon is off the page. Here comes the muscle. It's cut, but it's surrounded by the epimysium. We expected that. This is a fasciculus, a fasciculus, a fasciculus, and this is a fasciculus drawn outward. The surrounding of the fasciculus and all the fasciculi right here is the paramysium. Paramysium. Inside of the fasciculus, pulling one of these muscle fibers out, okay, and they're doing a little bit more here, but here's a muscle fiber. It's a single muscle fiber. It's going to be surrounded by endomysium that occurs actually between the fibers here. And here it is printed. They went one step farther here, and we will take that step too on Tuesday and pull out the myofibril. The myofibril is the smallest organelle. It is striated, and the striations that it has, when all of them are pushed back in to the muscle fiber, cause the muscle fiber to be striated. Remember, the muscle fibers is a single cell. Push all those back into the fasciculus, and all the striations line up and get much denser, and push the fasciculus back into the muscle, and the whole dang muscle gets striated.
Charlie,
Yes.
were you saying the myofiber is not striated, but everything else was?
No.
Oh,
Myofibril is the source of the striation.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
the source of the striation.
Okay.
Okay. It's sort of like a box of straws. Although if you look at a box of straws, most either have no coloration on them whatsoever, or they're clear. You've seen straws that are multicolored. I remember when McDonald's had white and yellow straws. Okay, and that was okay. But imagine a straw with rings around it, lots and lots of rings, maybe 50 to 100 rings on each straw. Now, put that straw into a box of other straws, all with 50 rings in exactly the same spot. It's going to get more intense. And take that box of straws and put it into a case with a bunch of other straws in boxes, all lined up, and you just intensify everything. Okay. The myofibril has the striations, and as the myofibrils accumulate, okay, They don't actually accumulate. This drawing makes you think that you can expand everything outward. You can't, but you can use your mind to push everything back in. And as you do, you'll line up all the striations in the myofibril, which is the smallest of the showing parts here.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to give you just a 10-minute break if you can handle that, so that we can try to get out into our close to our regular time. And I'll get you started on the muscles. Okay, so 310. No, is that right? No, 410. Okay, I'll see you in a moment. Okay. Anybody come up with a question? Nope. Have everybody bring their pet. Okay. Okay, well, we'll get started with the just an intro to the lab material, and need to share. Okay, that's where we were. Don't need to be there. Okay, uh, you see week 4.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And there is a discussion question this week. Okay, I'll let you read it and then give your answer, please. We just talked about this muscle tissue, and I'm going to show you this. Then I'm going to take you back to the other class because I had some material there I wanted to give you and didn't end up with enough time. Okay, human muscles. All of the origins, insertions, and actions of muscles that you will be given will be human origin, insertions, and actions. We do use the cat as well. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's good hands-on experience, but not for online people. I do have videos that I've made of dissection, and I'll show you one or two of them, but I'm not putting you through all of them when you can't do it yourself. The other reason is some schools that you may want to go to, that you may apply to, are going to want certain things. One thing that they often want is that you've had hands-on dissection experience, and they don't accept high school, so they're going to want something here. And well, we can't even give it online, but that's forgiven during this period, and of course it'll be reestablished later. But the cat I think makes it interesting You would think a cat has so many muscles that are different than our own. Well, I'll tell you, it has more muscles that are like our own than are different, many more. So it's a good learning tool. Okay, now the page I want to show you may take your breath away. I hope not, because of the amount of material that looks like you're going to have to learn. I'm going to condense it a bit. Okay, now that's just the start of it. It goes on and on and on. 73 muscles. Okay. What you're
Charlie,
gonna, yes,
we have to memorize all of this.
that's right. That's what I said. But except I said I was going to condense it. So hang on. Every class, every nursing student always has to memorize this. Okay. But I think getting so specific as we have it right in here, and I said we, I mean the Saddleback College anatomy instructors put this list together. Okay. I'm going to use my list. Okay. But on this first one, you see the name of the muscle. You'll have to identify it on a cat. You'll have to identify it on a human model. And you may have to identify it on a cadaver. Okay. None of those things are going to bother you as much as you probably think. Some of them are so easy. Some of them you've known all your life. Others definitely will be more challenging.
Charlie,
Yes.
is this gonna be on our exam coming up? All of this?
No, this is
Okay.
P2. This is P2. Okay, this is not going to be on there. The muscle lecture that you just had definitely is going to be on the test. Okay, the lecture exam. This is strictly lab. Had people at UCI where I would teach this, and you always worry that somebody's going to get sick when they see the cadaver. And we have cadavers in Saddleback, but of course we're not going to be able to use them. And it's not that bad. It's just some people have this apprehension or I don't know feeling you can't handle it. The only people I've ever seen get sick have been guys. Never seen a woman get sick. And so one woman get upset. She was looking at the cadavers. She loved it. She come in after class, everything to dissect it, prosect it as it's really called. And then in the class, she was leading the teams and everything. But we don't have the face uncovered yet because we keep it under a pillowcase because that makes it human to a lot of people. And when we finally, she asked, well, what's all these marks on her arms, on the cadaver's arms? And I said, they're freckles. They're like yours. He was freckled. She said, oh, they don't look like freckles. You know, I said, it's different for people, different freckles. And I said, they're freckles. And anyway, it came to the time to take the mask off and do the facial muscles. And freckles, freckles, freckles. And this could have been her twin sister. Oh, she just about fainted. And a couple of people had to help her out of the room. And that was a bad scene. She came back to the class later. She was okay. Had one guy. I like to reward if I can curiosity, wanting to learn, that sort of thing. And as a graduate student at UCI, I'd be up at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock, doing my work. during my lab work. Why? Because I didn't want to be around people during the middle of the day. It bothered me. They get in the way. They always want to know, what are you doing? You know, or talk about something that you don't care about. So I worked, and then in the morning, I go to the library because nobody went there. And then the rest of the day, I crawled underneath the building. I had a key to the lowest utility floors, and I'd go to sleep down there. One time, about 3 in the morning, I could hear the elevator come up to our floor, and this was lab and teaching floor. And here comes the janitor. You could hear that cart of his moving along, and he's got a dust mop. He always did. I knew the guy. I talked to him before. His name was Mr. Craig. Craig was his real name, but he liked to be called Mr. Craig. He was about 400 pounds. He was a absolute giant of a person. And he'd come in to my lab, and we'd talk about whatever. And it was interesting because he only had a second grade education. I mean, he never saw most of the people on Earth. He only saw the nighttime people, the janitors. They had their own group. They even had their own language. And well, I was talking to him. He spoke my language, and he said, "What's in that room over there? What's in that room? There's a big shiny box." And I said, "Oh, that's a cadaver." And he sort of, shuffled out of the room. Come right back though. He said, "What's a daver?" And I said, "No, not a daver, a cadaver. Cadaver is a dead person. There's a corpse in there." He said, "Oh, no way, there's no corpse in there. You know, I'd know if there's a corpse anywhere around. I know when there's dead people around." And I said, "Well, you're mistaken this time. Maybe the box is keeping the vibes from you or something." And I took him over there. I said, here we are in front of the box. Just you and me in the box. There's nobody else in the building." And he said, "Well, okay, well, let's see what's in the box." Okay, so I opened it up. It had a sheet on, and the cigar that he had been smoking, he always did, almost fell on it. Would have incinerated everything instantly. Whew, finally got rid of that. And I started to close it back up again. He said, "Well, no, aren't we going to see it? We're going to see it." I said, "Well, it's a woman. You mind? She won't." And the only reason I would have shown him at all is because of his actual curiosity of nature, not because looky loo or anything like that. But I took the sheet off. Said, "You want to see the convertible chest?" I lifted it up so you could see the lungs and the heart. He was just crazy interested. And he said, "What's all this?" And I said, "Those are intestines." "That much?" I said, "Yes." There's up to 26 feet coiled up in there. "No, there's not." I said, "Yes, there is. I'll prove it to you. You hold this end, I'll hold this end, and we'll back up." You know which end I gave him. Yeah. I,
Got a good picture of Audubon like this. Oh, good. Over here, Kyrie. Hey.
okay. I had a button already set to mute all, but yeah, it's my job, so I'll take care of it. But if anybody else feels they had enough of this, they might send an instant message. That's, you can send the instant message to all. I mean, or just let me do it. Okay. Anyway, if you remember what I was talking about, the backed up and he wouldn't go for that. So it was fine. We were finished. He went his way that night and I went back to my lab. The next night, here he comes again about 3:30. I called downstairs. I knew there's another graduate student still there, Bill Gorham. And I said, Bill, I want you to come up here. They said, I'm going home. I'm going back to the dorms. I said, no, I need you for just a second. I know you're on your way home. It'll only take a second. So he came up and we went into the lab room, the section room. And he said, well, there's nothing here. They took the cadaver away today to the new viewing vault. I said, I know. That means the gurney is empty and I want to sleep in it. In those days, you didn't question anybody. Okay. So he held it open for me. I got in and put my head on the little head rack. And I told him to turn out the light and go away. And thanks. And that was it. And he did exactly that with no questions asked. It's hard to believe. But you know what I was doing? I was waiting for Mr. Craig. It took him 20 minutes to get down there, and I'm just having all weird thoughts in that box. But he got in there, and he came in the far end of the door. You could hear his mop click, click, clicking away down at the other end of the room. He wouldn't come near the gurney. He thinks he's the only one in the building now with that gurney, and he doesn't know what's in it. Well, he thinks he knows what's in it. Anyway, he finally made a rush for it. He finally came as fast as he could and lit the mop and just as quick as he could, and he's going to get out the door, but he couldn't because as soon as he got near the gurney, I opened it. I lifted my hand out and said, Craig, help me. Craig, help me. Yeah, he took off then and he clomped 400 pounds, really, down the hallway. I don't bet he never ran that fast in his life. And never saw him again. Never saw him. I guess he got transferred to another building. Okay, now, what you're going to need to know, definitely the name. There's a lot of names. So I want you to get started. Let me get rid of this. There we go. But that was human muscles, the expanded version. You don't have to use that. Okay, I'll put in parentheses, optional. The human muscles condensed version. Come on.
Charlie,
Yeah.
is human muscles and cat muscles will be in lecture 1.
Lecture 1.
Proctorium 2, I think.
No, this is for practicum 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now here's the condensed version. Doesn't look condensed, does it? Well, the same muscle names. Absolutely the same muscle names. But the origins have been shortened considerably. Instead of, for instance, on the palmaris longus, or let's pick a different one. Where's the biceps brachii? Instead of telling you the 2 origins, it only gives you the bone, scapula, and the radius is the insertion. The action does not change. The action is still given. Sometimes there are more than one action given. If there's more than one, You're welcome to know them all, but on the test, expect me to offer as an answer the first one. Okay. If I offer the second one as well, that should even be more of a hint. This is what you need to know. Where there's any dashes, no, there's not going to be any question about that. Okay. It's too much to expect you to learn on your own. We need to go through the muscles in groups, and we will. Where it says not required, that's the same as those dashes you saw a moment ago. So for the extensor pollicis, which is the muscle that raises your thumb to a hitchhike position, you don't need to know the origin or insertion. You just need to know that it extends digit 1. Okay.
Charlie, what number was that?
That happened to be 54 on this list.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, let me back up here. Cat muscles. They look exactly the same. Okay. What's not the same is what's in blue, the links. Okay, now I should have done this first with the human, but it makes no difference. For the cat, looking at the trapezius, your upper back triangular muscle. Okay, if the link doesn't work, open up the whole page. There's the trapezius on the cat, and we enlarge it by clicking one more time. Here's the trapezius 1, number 1, 1C. You just have to know it as trapezius, one muscle. I will go over it slowly with you. Right now, I'm just trying to tell you what's coming, like it or not. The latissimus dorsi, or the lats, here on the side, number 2. And the rhomboides are going to be shown at number 4. When you increase it, you lose the legend, but you can go right back to it. Here's latissimus dorsi. Here's the rhomboides here.
So these are going to be on the same test, the cat and the,
Yes.
okay. Did you have it on?
Just a second. For the record, once again, the origins and then the insertions and the actions will be the same. You will always answer the same, whether it's cat or human. These are all human, and that's what we really want to emphasize. Okay, so you're not learning this stuff twice. Okay, you may be learning the muscles twice, however. You still have a question? Who's got it?
Sasha, so I noticed you clicked on the cat link, but the other list has that same link where we can see a picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to the human. I don't care if it's condensed or expanded. You know, some people want the expanded version. Some people want to know as much as they can, and they have the time and the ability to learn it. Others, you know, are preparing for the test and want the surer thing, and they take the condensed version. I don't care which. If this is the condensed version and it doesn't open up, open it right there. Okay, now the trapezius and the human. It's a model of the human. Okay, here's the trapezius muscle here, number 1. Here's the latissimus dorsi, number 2, over here. So we don't need that one. The serratus anterior are these muscles. So you can see the human muscles are all shown on human models, and some of them will also be shown on cadavers. I would ask you on your own to get started with the human muscles using the condensed version. Okay. If you want to use the expanded version, that is entirely up to you. I didn't ask you to, but this is the condensed version. And I want to show you where that is to be sure. So it would have been quicker for me not to go this way, but this is the way you'll come in. Week 4. Expanded version, that's going to say optional. Oh, look, hell. I'll make it say optional right now. Okay, that's the optional version. Here's the real thing. Human muscles. Get to it. Doesn't open up. Hit the link right at the top. And here we are here. I would like you to look at the first 12 this weekend. The first 12. Okay, now what does that mean? You can add to it a book if you want to. Your book has all the muscles. But number 1, the trapezius. And don't forget to look at what the muscle does. But I think the first thing you have to do is name the muscle, know where it is. Latissimus dorsi. The serratus anterior is number 3, and it won't show here. Just back up, click number 3, it's over here. Here's number 4, the rhomboides. Pull your shoulders together above the spine of the scapula, supraspinatus, below the infraspinatus. I think 1 through 12 is going to be a lightweight introduction. Okay, then come back when you think you know where these are, these 12, and then start learning the origin, insertion, and action. The origin and insertion have been cut down as small as they are ever going to be. Okay. The action, you might use different words than they have here, but if you read it again, it pays to pay attention to the first action that is listed, if there are multiple actions. When it says flexes forearm, that's what you need to say on the exam, or that's what the exam will say and offer you as a multiple choice question. It will not say bends elbow. It will not say lifts the forearm. It will say flexes the forearm. Okay, so this is the terminology you need to be able to use. Most people, I will tell you tell you right up front, most students consider this the hump. Okay, hump day. This is probably to them the hardest stuff, and yet their scores are just magnificent, and yours will be too. Okay, we'll see to that. Okay, so I'm looking at human muscles. Okay, don't worry about the cat just yet, please. Okay, and 1 through 12 If you want to go on and do more, you might just pick up an area that you're more comfortable with, the leg, for instance, the foot, or anything else. You may also want to just jump ahead to these that say with a bunch of not requireds, where it is and what it does. Here's the one that raises the thumb, the extensor pollicis. All you have to do is name it. So you might want to jump ahead to some of these for yourself. There are lots of flashcards out there. Quizlets are abundant out there. Use them if you want, but ask yourself, is this taking more time than it's worth? Those Quizlets can be awfully slow. And if they are fine, they also need to be fine as far as the actions are concerned, because these are the actions that are going to show up on your exam. Okay, so the only assignment I've got for you is chapter 10. Okay. And 1 through 12 on the human condensed muscle sheet. Okay, try to get down 1 through 12, including origin, insertion, and action. Remember the first time you saw the bone sheet, you thought, oh my God, this much stuff. And you did it very, very well. There's no reason why you won't do just as well on the rest. Unfortunately, or fortunately, for some people would think, this course does not let up. Okay, it will keep going. Okay. Especially now that we've got past all those cell lectures. Not my favorites. Okay, so any questions?
When is practicum 2 scheduled for, or is it?
It's scheduled. It's in the syllabus. I honestly don't have it in front of me. So, I mean, you have it. Everybody has it. They give it to you. It's the syllabus is located in both Bio 11 and Bio 110. Can anybody get to it quickly?
October 14.
What?
October 14.
October 14th. Yeah, that makes about sense. About a month away from the other one. Okay, so if we're looking at October 14th, that's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's a month from now. That's a month from now. So we've got plenty of time to learn this. But don't take that to mean that you've got so much time that you don't need to get started. You should want to get started right away. Okay, and for those of you who want to go faster, be my guest.
Charlie,
Yes,
I have a question. The next lecture exam will be on Tuesday or Thursday?
Thursday,
Thursday?
the 30th. The 30th.
Thank you.
Charlie, like a bone box at the library, is there something for the muscles that we can get a hold of as well?
No. You know, people ask me that, but there are so many. My pictures, I'm going to tell you this. The pictures I took and put on the internet, like I showed you a moment ago, are as good as anything that you would buy or get at the library. I know you like 3D, and so do I, but we're not able to do that right now. And those pictures are quite good. Using the internet to supplement it if you want to. There's many sites that want to show you the muscles of the human body. So to answer your question just shortly, no.
Charlie?
Yeah.
The last exam, the final, it will be cumulative?
What about it?
The last exam, the final?
Yes.
It will be cumulative?
Okay, I don't want to go into the final right now.
Okay.
I just think it's way too early.
Okay.
Just learn the terms as we go along. There's a list of terms that I'll be posting for exam number 1. Probably do it this weekend for you. Those are all available from the website, but let me give them to you. Okay, and they will be the terms. You'll recognize them. They all come out of the lecture material. Okay, there's just terms you need to be familiar with. I hesitate sometimes to post them because somebody would think, well, that's all I have to know. It's just those terms. No, you got to know what they mean. So it's a little bit more demanding than that. Okay. I'll send you some terms and the practice quiz this weekend, as I said, and I'll send you an email when I do that. Okay. Okay, if you don't have a question, and don't wish to wait around to see if somebody else does, well, then you show yourself out. I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Professor.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ask that same question at the start on Tuesday. About
Sorry?
the final.
The
The
final,
final.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Ask it to start. You know, I have everybody there. I had most of the people here anyway, but ask it to start.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.